Okay, folks, so we finished off in Word Nerd in the middle of chapter 10. Nope, chapter 20. So I'm actually going to start it over just to, refresh our memories a little bit. And please, before you continue this video, make sure that you've gone back to the Google Doc that we made with the summary of what we have read so far in this book, just so we're all on the same page and all caught up. So, chapter 20 is called Avoidance. And I did not do the word jumble this time, but maybe in future chapters we'll find a way to get back on that, okay? So, chapter 20. But how's a guy supposed to begin in a situation like this? There's not just one lie, there's multiple lies, layered on top of each other like the fancy cakes they sell at the Bon-Ton on Broadway that Mom will never buy. Partly because she's worried they might have peanuts in them, and partly because she says they're empty calories, whatever that means. I've tried to work out the conversation ahead of time in my mind. Mom, there's something I have to tell you. I've been going to the West Side Scrabble Club for a couple of months now. Cosmo drives me. You know Cosmo, the ex-druggie. We've become good friends. I've even gone out with him and his new friend Amanda. Last week we went rock climbing, which really isn't that dangerous. And you know that night you saw him in his car with that girl? Well, I was in the car too. We were just trying to beat you home. Ha ha ha. Not in a million years was I going to say that. On Sunday night, Mom and I played Scrabble and listened to some of her CDs. I crushed her. The final score was 302 to 125. She challenged about 6 different words that I played, and each one was in the official Scrabble dictionary. We used the regular Scrabble dictionary for our game since Mom didn't even know I had the official Scrabble tournament and club word list. She shook her head when we were done. I didn't think it was possible, but you've gotten even better. In fact, you're not that much fun to play with anymore. She smiled as she said this, but I could tell that part of her meant it. And inside, a part of me was pleased because I remembered that Muhammad had told me on the first night I'd gone to the club about his roommates refusing to play with him after a while. Maybe this meant I wasn't just a kitchen player anymore. And suddenly I knew I could broach the subject of the Scrabble Club. I simply needed to apply Scrabble strategies. Scrabble wasn't just about having a good vocabulary. It was also about which letters you held on to and which you dumped. More simply, I didn't have to tell my mom the entire truth. I could just use the parts I wanted to use and hold on to the rest. I do love Scrabble, I said, as she put the board away and poured herself another glass of wine. I know you do. It's something I'm good at, I continued, something I can take pride in. I knew this was a good thing to say. Mom was always wanting me to find something in my life that I could take pride in, and so far, in my 12 3/4 years, there'd be next to nothing, unless you counted the year I got a participant ribbon at the end of our school sports day in Regina. Where is this leading? She asked. When we were on Broadway the other day, I continued, I saw a notice on a hydro pole for the West Side Scrabble Club. This was not even a lie, even if it happened months ago. I'd really like to join. A Scrabble club? That sounds like fun. So can I? When is it? She was dancing to the music. This one, a CD by another Canadian guy named Luc Doucet, as she drank her wine, and for a moment I felt I was seeing her the way my dad must have seen her, all those years ago, carefree and happy, and maybe even fun. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. at the West Side United Church. But that's up by the university. I can take the bus. By yourself? Mom, I'm 12 3/4, 13 in July. She shook her head. Sorry, Ambrose, there's no way I'm letting you take the bus by yourself in the dark. It's barely dark at 7 now that spring's here, I said. But what about later, when the club gets out? I almost suggested that she could pick me up on her way home, but then I remembered I couldn't let her find out that Cosmo was in the club too. I'm sure someone would give me a lift. She stopped dancing and turned off the music. Ambrose, do I look like I'm nuts? Not in a million years would I let you get into a car with a perfect stranger. But they wouldn't be strangers after a couple of weeks. I'm sorry, but the answer is no. I was desperate now. What if I find someone else to drive me? Someone you know and trust? Who would that be? The Economopolises. Maybe one of them would drive me. Mrs. Economopolis doesn't even have her license. And have you seen Mr. Economopolis drive? It's a miracle the man hasn't killed himself or someone else. Then Cosmo. That just came flying out. She gave me the stink eye. I truly am sorry, Ambrose. If I could go with you, if it was on the weekends, I'd take you in a heartbeat. But I would be a terrible mother if I agreed to this. Mom, please. This discussion is over. She grabbed her glass of wine and walked into her bedroom and closed the door. I stood thinking for a minute. Then I pushed through the beads into my own bedroom and took the consent form out of my desk. I found a pen. Then on the line, after parent or guardian signature, I wrote in my best handwriting, Irene Bukowski. Cosmo and I returned to the Scrabble Club that Wednesday. He didn't ask about my mom on the drive up, and I was grateful. We talked mostly about the weather, which I've noticed Vancouverites like to do. But for the first time since we started going to the Scrabble Club, I felt kind of guilty. At least before, I'd had the excuse that Mom had never said I couldn't go because I'd never told her. Now I knew exactly where she stood, and I was 100% going against her wishes. My feelings were quickly forgotten, though, as soon as we stepped into the Sunday school room. "Welcome back," said Mohammed, and he handed me a word list he'd printed out especially for me. "We thought we'd lost you," said a woman named Beth. It was a nice feeling to know we'd been missed, even if we hadn't been gone that long. Even Joan and I were getting along better, ever since I'd told her about my peanut allergy, and she'd told me about her lactose intolerance. "How are you feeling tonight, Joan?" I asked, as we set up the boards and counted tiles. "Terrible. I had a Greek salad at lunch, and they swore up and down that the feta was made from goat's milk, but the way my tummy's been feeling, I just know it was cow's. I've been burbly and gaseous for hours." And she proved it by letting out a long fart, so I was relieved when I found out we had 6 beginners present, and I wasn't playing Joan. Once we'd all sat down in our little kid chairs, Amanda made the announcements. "If anyone sees Susan's timer, please let her know. She hasn't been able to find it since last week." And Larry went down to the tournament in Portland and improved his rating by 100 points, winning 10 out of 14 games. His rating is now 1767. Congratulations, Larry. Everyone applauded, and Larry, in his stained sweatpants, took a bow. And of course, our most exciting news is that our annual West Side Scrabble Club tournament is only 3 weeks away. It's on Saturday, May 14th. We'll be playing 8 games. Players need to be there by 8:30 in the morning, and we hope to wrap up by 6. I've received over 75 entry forms already. We have people coming from as far as Boston, Massachusetts, and Sacramento, California. If you haven't entered yet, but would like to, time's running out. We need your applications and your checks in by this Saturday at the latest. Then it was time to play. In spite of all my mixed feelings about Mom, I got sucked right into it again. For the first time, I won all 3 of my games. Even Cosmo managed to win 2 out of 3. So we were both floating a bit when Amanda approached us afterward. "Did you tell your mom about the club?" she asked. "Yes," I said, which, technically speaking, wasn't a lie. And it's fine. Technically speaking, that was a lie. Did you bring the consent form? I nodded and handed it to her. She looked at it, and so did Cosmo, and suddenly I felt kind of sweaty in my armpits. But all she said was, "Well, that's fantastic, especially since I think you should enter the tournament." Really? You're ready, Ambrose. Cosmo, I think you should enter too. You're both getting better. Until you play in a tournament, you can't get a ranking. If you want to get more serious about your playing, this is your next step. And it's also a heck of a lot of fun. She handed us both application forms, but when Cosmo tried to give her a quick kiss goodnight on the lips, she turned her face so it landed on her cheek instead. On the drive home, Cosmo said, "You forged her signature, didn't you?" I didn't say anything. Ambrose? "I'm not telling you anything," I blurted. "You've promised to be Mr. Honesty, haven't you? You'll feel all morally obligated to tell Amanda." "I wouldn't do that." I looked out the window, suddenly wishing I was home and that my mom was there, and that we could just curl up on the couch and watch an old movie like we used to once in a while, before she had to switch to teaching nights. I tried to tell her, but there were so many parts I couldn't say. Like that you and I go together? I didn't answer. "She doesn't like me." "No, she doesn't," I said. "But all she knows about you is that you're an ex-con and a drug addict. You can't totally blame her." "But if she got to know me, it wouldn't matter. She wouldn't trust you. Are you just being nice because you're a pedophile and you're going to kidnap me? Or are you just being nice because you want me to start selling drugs for you? Are you just being nice so I'll feel guilty?" It's how her mind works. I told her I could take the bus to Scrabble Club, but all she thinks about is a stranger getting off the bus and following me. Or she imagines a creepy guy befriending me, then killing me. Or she pictures me getting hit by a car when I cross a busy street without her. Those are some very dark thoughts. I know. But maybe we'd have them too if we lost someone the way she lost my dad. Everything's normal in the morning. He's there patting her stomach, kissing her goodbye, and then boom, he's dead because of a time bomb in his brain. We were both pretty quiet after that. When we got out of the car at home, Cosmo held up the entry forms Amanda had given us. "You gonna enter?" I shook my head. "I'd like to, but it's a Saturday. My mom doesn't work. Besides, it costs $40. "Well, if you change your mind, I can spot you the entrance fee. It looks like I'm going to pick up a few more shifts at the construction site." That's good news. Then, because I had to ask, have you tried to buy drugs again? "No, I haven't." "Have you ditched your purple pants yet?" "Not gonna happen," I replied. We said goodnight. Cosmo started up the front steps while I headed around the side of the house. Suddenly, I heard him swear loudly. One of the 10 uses of the F word in the official Scrabble tournament and club word list. I ran up the porch. He stood looking through the living room window. Right through the living room window. Because of the glass, aside from a few shards, was no longer there. Someone had thrown a rock right through it. That is chapter 20. We'll see you soon for 21.